Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today for the CIEE Work and Travel USA Summer 2022 Kickoff Webinar. I'm Jamie Fisher, Senior Manager of Host Relations on our Seasonal Exchanges team. And you'll see that I'm joined by a wonderful panel of our Host Relations team. Everyone will be speaking a little bit later in the presentation. We're so appreciative to all of you for carving some time out to meet with us today. We thank you so much for your continued partnership as we continue to rebuild our exchange programs and grow. We know we've all been on quite the journey over the last couple of years, and we are so excited to be welcoming summer work and travel participants to the United States this summer. A couple of housekeeping notes before we jump in. We will be saving some time at the end for questions. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, so please feel free at that time to use the chat function to ask any questions that you may have. Our agenda is going to be brief. Today is the latest in a series of webinars, and I know many of you have joined us for our previous sessions. As we, again, continue to rebuild, our goal is to communicate and educate with our stakeholders, giving you as much succinct knowledge and information that we have as we have it. We know that things have changed and been fluid throughout the last couple of years. So we want to make sure that we're giving you as much information as we have at the present time. If at any time you think you may have missed an important update via webinar or by an email, we do have a library of archived communication on our Host Employer Resource Center, and we'll be sharing that link later in the webinar and also talking a little bit more about the Host Employer Resource Center as we continue. We are going to just keep our agenda brief. We're going to give updates on the current landscape. We will talk about some pre-arrival tips. We will be giving you, talking a little bit about some changes coming very soon to our CEDIS registration process. We'll talk through cultural adjustment and in-country support. Also talk about CIEE insurance, the best way to communicate with CIEE, and then, as I mentioned, leave some time for questions and answers at the end. So as we've mentioned in previous webinars, we are growing, we are continuing to grow, and this is the current CIEE Host Relations team. I wanted to display in this way so that we could keep in mind that we are one team. So, rather than emailing us directly throughout the course of the summer, we do ask that you continue to use the hire@ciee.org email address for communication. And again, we'll note that later in the session. You may be getting responses from any one of us on the team. And you'll note here that some of the faces do represent our Camp USA product as well. You may hear from any one of us on the Host Relations team at any point in time. So thought it great to just show some faces and let you know that you'll be hearing from many of us as we continue to grow, and you'll hear from some voices as we continue with this webinar as well. We are continuing to hire so that we can best support our host network, and we will be posting some positions soon to our team. Any current postings are available and up to date on the CIEE website. So we want to take a couple of minutes to just talk a little bit about the current landscape. Again, you have all been on this ride with us, this journey over the last couple of years. And last year at this time, you may remember when we were talking about the current landscape that we put up a photo like the one you see on the left. We had a very uncertain visa climate. There were travel bans, continued pandemic concerns, a lot of ambiguity, unclear paths to the summer program forward. I am happy to share that we have a much different outlook today, and that's why we chose the picture on the right as a visual. We have a path forward. It's not paved. there's a bend in the road. So we know that we still have some things that we're working through, but as you can see, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's light at the end of the path, and the sunshine's peeking through. And we really do feel like, we're coming closer to having our programs to where we knew they were pre-pandemic. So it's a very exciting time as we move towards 2022 and move towards summer arrivals. A little bit about our current landscape. We've talked to you in the last webinar sessions about visa approvals. As you know, in 2021, visa approvals, even at this time, were quite uncertain. We are happy to share that at this time, we have now doubled the number of participants with visas who currently have visas when compared to the entire 2021 program. So this is really exciting news, and appointments continue to be scheduled more and more every day. It's just very exciting to see this path forward. We have seen a lot of wins from many sending countries that in 2021 had zero or limited participation, such as Turkey and Spain and Poland, and any country that maybe had a travel ban or an impact from COVID-19. As we've noted in our previous webinars, we have seen a softer applicant pool for 2022 than we anticipated going into this season, than we anticipated in the fall. However, we're very excited to be where we are, very excited to see participants getting visas and just continuing to build and to grow. We are seeing a very positive mindset, very positive encouragement from the U.S. Department of State. They are frequently sending communication to the sponsor community and have an overall positive outlook, overall positive results when talking through visa approval rates. So it's very encouraging to see the U.S. Department of State's encouragement as we are all in this together to make these programs, to bring them back to what they were pre-pandemic. We are continuing to closely monitor updates from our international representative team. And as we've mentioned, we'll continue to share updates as they are critical to your business or if they impact a specific sending country. And now I am going to pass it over to Emily, who's going to talk to you a little bit about pre-arrival tips.
Hi, everyone. As Jamie mentioned, I'm now going to cover some pre-arrival tips to help set you up for a successful summer season. So first off, make sure that you're sending welcome emails to your participants. These are so important to establish rapport with your hires before they arrive and set expectations to establish an open line of communication before the season begins. Consider in these including information surrounding arrival and housing details, items participants need to bring with them, or even introduce yourself with a picture so that participants have a friendly face they can recognize when they arrive. If you're looking for a sample arrival email template, you can find one on our Host Employer Resource Center. Next, be sure that you're asking participants for visa confirmation and travel details. Direct communication is going to be the best way to collect this information from participants. Participants will have the information first, so asking them to keep you informed is the best way to obtain these updates. As with 2021, the visa travel turnaround time is quick, so start asking your participants now to send you updates so that you're not surprised by their arrivals. Next, moving on to setting expectations. Think about things like, do you have pre-arrival paperwork or onboarding steps participants need to take? Are there uniform items your participants should be prepared to bring? How will participants travel from the airport to housing or from housing to their first day of work? These are just a few examples of items to cover when communicating to participants prior to arrival to help mitigate nerves and confusion during their first few days in the US. Next, communicating with your local Social Security office to understand their process for the 2022 season. We do have an update here. The Social Security Administration recently shared a newly released online application that can now be used for first-time Social Security card applicants. Participants can now submit their request for a Social Security number online, but they will still have to visit the Social Security office with their documentation within 45 calendar days of their request. So they've also stressed the importance of participants having and entering a good address or even an in care of address to receive the card before going online and completing the application. So in addition to all of those above updates, please make sure that you are still checking in with your local Social Security office for any specific instructions that are pertaining to that local office. And finally, please make sure that you prepare your team for the arrival of participants. Make sure that everyone working directly with the participants knows they'll be arriving, and even go as far as to learn a little bit about their cultures and where they'll all be coming from. That can really go a long way. Next, I'm going to cover a little bit about SEVIS registration. We have some very exciting updates to share about our SEVIS registration process. After Friday, SEVIS registration will be available in CIEE Beacon. So you can see a screenshot here of what that will look like on the screen. We're really excited as we rebuild and reemerge that we'll be able to leverage our IT capabilities to create a more efficient process and a better user experience for participants as they arrive. We did also set up this feature using mobile first technology. So if participants do have a phone, they should be able to register from their mobile devices. And of course, they can also use a computer. You will receive an email from us once this is official. So please don't instruct any participants quite yet to use Beacon to register until after you've received that communication from us. In the meantime, please continue to instruct participants to call CIEE to register until you've received that official notification that the new system has launched. And then as a reminder, when they are registering, they will need to have their DS number, host address, and housing address available. And that is it for me. So I am now going to pass it over to Lindsay to talk about cultural adjustment.
Thank you, Emily. So as you can imagine, the moment your students arrive, they are just bombarded with the concept of cultural adjustment and needing to adapt. This year is a very special year, especially after almost 2 years of a global pandemic and a global shutdown. A lot of students have been waiting almost 2 years to come on the program. So this is the start of something really special that has been a long time coming for them. When we talk about cultural adjustment, we often refer back to this image of the cultural iceberg. Icebergs, of course, are known for having the very visible part above water and then a very large invisible part below the water. Some elements of cultures are very easy to spot. So language, clothing, food, holidays, mannerisms, these are all things that vary from culture to culture. And they're extremely important ones. But there's so much more to culture than what is below the surface. And this just kind of the portion of the iceberg below the water represents the deeper cultural differences that are harder to see. So there's the concept of time, the concept of cleanliness, attitude towards leadership, personal space, asking questions. These are all things that also vary from culture to culture, and you will likely interact with while your participants are here. So it's really important to keep that in mind, that what is common and normal to you might not be the same for somebody else. So this is just a really great visual to keep in mind as your participants arrive, and remember that they are going through a range of emotions upon their arrival. So we want to remember to be clear and specific when setting expectations with them. There are some really great questions that you want to keep in mind to ask yourself as your participants arrive. Maybe ask them about the conditions of their home country. What are they experiencing here? Understanding the conditions in their home country can give them some ideas of what background they are coming into the country with. And then it's really important to bond with your participants immediately and take interest in them. So you want to ask open-ended questions to check for understanding rather than just say, do you understand? You want to make sure you're giving them the open chance to ask questions if they don't. And then spend extra time on setting expectations about showing up for work on time, scheduling adjustments, privacy, modesty, appropriate and inappropriate behavior. And we also want you to encourage your domestic staff to interact with these participants as well, because they're going to be a very big piece of the puzzle as well. And of course, a positive program experience does have a ripple effect year after year. It makes your job more desirable, more knowledgeable for potential returning students and future participants who might be looking for a job with you next year. So all in all, you know, the importance of keeping a positive experience and respecting and understanding a cultural difference is so important. So we just always want to encourage you to put yourselves in the shoes of your participants. So we always like to refer to this going through the steps of how would you feel if you flew halfway around the world, and maybe after never leaving your home country before. All of a sudden you have to translate from your native language to one you've only studied in school. You don't know a single soul within thousands of miles around. You've met multiple strangers, and all of a sudden now you need to live with them and work with them. And you're also working your very first job ever. These are a lot of really heavy things that the students are all of a sudden bombarded with. So if you notice that your students are having a hard time adjusting, please let us know so that we can help counsel the students. We want to hear from you so that we can proactively reach out to the students and help to mediate or bring them some kind of comfort if we can. So we do want to be involved in that. And again, this is the first time in almost 2 years that a lot of students are getting the opportunity to go outside of their normal daily life again. So this is a really big opportunity, and compassion is really important here. This is going to be a program that changes the lives of so many participants that you work with, and they're going to remember this experience for the rest of their life, and you are going to be their mentor. You're going to be in their memory. So the more positive role you can have on being a good point of contact for them, the better. So all of this to keep in mind. And now I'm going to pass this over to Sarah to talk about the important safety tips and insurance.
Thanks, Lindsay. So let's turn our attention to some safety tips for ensuring your participants have a safe, happy, and successful program this season. In addition to all of our general best practices that we offer, we wanted to remind you about some important safety tips, and any additional information on these topics can be found on our Host Employer Resource Center. First up, though, when we think about participant safety, here are a couple key topics. So bike safety in terms, which would include, educating participants about obeying traffic laws, stop signs, right-of-way procedures, using hand signals at intersections, wearing a helmet, checking the bike for safety equipment, making sure the bike is in good working order, and making sure that the bikes have, reflectors and safety equipment on them so that cars can see the students as they're biking along. We know that biking is a very popular form of transportation for all students, so we want to make sure that all students are safe and healthy while using their bikes. Swimming, we will see a lot of participants that maybe have never swam before, and particularly have never even swam in the ocean before. So we want to make sure that students are safe when it comes to swimming and understand the differences that can be present here in ocean or lake swimming. So educating your students and your participants on, swimming in designated areas, making sure for all swimming or even biking related activities, telling someone where they're going, and being alert for rip currents and large waves and things like that. In terms of some general safety tips, students, particularly students working outside, may need reminders about wearing sunscreen or drinking plenty of water during their shifts. And then severe weather precautions. So being aware of what flash floods, what hurricanes, what fire warnings mean, and what impact that's going to provide on their program. We also want you to be in touch with students about your specific drug and alcohol policies and what your requirements are when it comes to drug and alcohol use and safe drug and alcohol use. And then sexual and general harassment in the workplace. We want to make sure that students understand the cultural differences between sexual and general harassment here in the workplace. And again, there are a lot of resources on our host employer resource center regarding these topics. If you have any sort of safety concerns with participants, we want to make sure that we are in the loop so we can be contacted at any time help is needed. The number is written right here, and you can also reach out to us at hire@ciee.org. And so now a little bit about our insurance. As you all may know, CIE provides all students with Aetna Student Health for our health insurance. You can find more information on the specifics of those policies on our website at the link provided. We also CIE works closely with Aetna to review and update coverage. So for example, this year we are now able to offer mental health coverage. And probably a big question on everyone's mind is, what does this mean in terms of COVID coverage? In most cases, COVID-related testing and treatment will be covered in full as long as it is ordered by a doctor. So that means if a student is showing signs or symptoms of COVID and is required to be hospitalized or receive treatment or testing that is ordered by a doctor, that should be covered by their health insurance. Things that will not be covered in terms of COVID testing are any sort of arrival or departure tests that students would like to receive. So do keep in mind that students may see additional costs around some types of COVID-related testing. And full details on our coverage can be found on our website, or you can also email insurance@ciee.org. Exclusions may apply depending on medical needs, and CIEE can help walk your students through the process to understand what is covered and answer any questions as well. Keep in mind, students will have copays, so urgent care, medication, doctor or specialist, or emergency room copays. And then also, we have started seeing some employers who are requiring boosters for COVID boosters for employment. This is not currently a CDC travel requirement. If you are requiring this as a condition of employment or a condition of living and housing, we recommend that you set those expectations with students in your welcome emails or in your pre-arrival correspondence, and help make the boosters available to students, maybe by setting up a booster clinic at work or directing students to booster sites, as well as any COVID testing sites or COVID resources that are available in your community. COVID resources vary state by state, and COVID requirements vary state by state. So it's important for you to know your testing sites, in-network providers, and for any questions, call CIEE and we'd be glad to assist. I will now hand this over to Katie to talk about best practices and contacting CIEE.
Thank you, Sarah. So I just want to go over a few best practices in communication that we would like to have throughout the summer to help you guys have a safe and successful summer with your participants. Starting with cultural opportunities, we know that this has been an issue with the pandemic. It's been hard to have gatherings, but we're hoping that this summer is a little different and that things are starting to open back up. So it's just something to keep in mind, to look for creative ways to start bringing back those cultural events. Hopefully there will be July 4th parades and festivals. I know team barbecues are always a hit for students. And then CEA is also focusing on cultural opportunities as we work to develop 2 Bridge USA leadership opportunities later this summer. And there will be more information to come on that. So very exciting that things are coming back and opening back up. Please also be sure to educate your domestic staff on the program. Let them know where the participants are coming from that they're going to be working with. Get them excited about this unique opportunity to be part of a global exchange. And we just want the participants to feel a part of the team and feel welcome. So letting the domestic staff kind of in on the point of the program helps with the student's initial adjustment. Of course, there are always going to be employment issues. We ask that you try to mediate first. Issues range from misunderstandings to homesickness to housing issues. And of course, we want to keep the student job as best we can. If you feel that you need help with the mediation, CIE is here to help you with that. So please call us. I'll do more on that information later. And of course, we'll eventually get to change of employment policy if a student can't be, we can't work out something with them to stay in the job. We do have a COE policy. We require a 2-week notice, and students should call into us, and we should, as a group, decide on what the 2-week last date and date will be. We understand that it seems like you might open the lottery with these students, and that they are also really excited to be here. But if they can't stay in the job, there's the labor market is so tight right now, and people increase wages, and the grass is always greener, maybe at a job down the road. So keep in mind, the students, give them incentives to stay, reasons to stay in the job. And for second job process, so this is for a second job that they're doing while you are their primary employer. They need to call into CIEE for next steps. Our participant services team will walk them through the process of adding a second job into Beacon. Then we approve the second job. And once the job is approved, they'll get a DocuSign sent to them that they'll have to sign off on. They should not start working the second job until that DocuSign is sent and signed. And then just a reminder, we are here for you. We have resources to help mediate with the students. Don't feel like you're in this alone, or any issue is too small to bring to us. We want to communicate and have that open communication with you. And we want to make sure participants and you have a safe and successful experience. So please be sure to keep us in the loop throughout the summer. Slide. Okay. So as issues arise for you or a participant and you need CIE support, this is how to contact us. The participant services team is there for the participants, and they can be reached at the number 888-268-6245 or contact@cie.org. They can use this at 24/7. If a participant is injured, obviously we want to call 911 first if it's immediate, but also follow up with participant services. And then for anything work-related or job-related, and you want to loop us in, please keep emailing us at hire@cie.org. As you saw all of our faces, we're all working diligently to communicate with you and reply quickly. And that is the best way to get in contact with us. And I think now I'm going to pass it back to Jamie for next steps.
Great. Thanks, Katie. And thank you everyone so much for your portions of this webinar. So just to quickly talk about a couple of next steps, and these are all things that we've sort of touched upon a little bit throughout the webinar, but please, as we've said, communicate with your participants now. If you have a welcome email or instructions on arrivals, this is the time to really start that rapport with them and start communicating with them. We ask that you watch your email for the following. We will be sending, as Emily mentioned, the new CVIS registration process so that you can assist participants in that process. We will continue to send program updates as they become available. We'll be sending, and you should have been receiving visa approval emails when participants have received visas. And then we're also sending program cancellations out. So watch your emails for this type of communication. And I know that we've put the website into the chat, but we recommend that you utilize the Host Employer Resource Center. This is a really great tool for if you've missed any of our communication. That's where we will be putting video recordings and emails that we've sent out. We also have information on insurance, tax and payroll resources, sexual harassment, soon to come trainings for managers, and many more items in there. So we recommend that you check out that resource, as we will continue to grow that as we as we are also building back to our programs that we have had pre-pandemic. So we thought it would be great to end on this slide, and we know that many of you have seen this before. Again, we thank you so much for your active participation and cultural exchange. We're so thrilled to be seeing programs reemerge after the past couple of very challenging years. And in many ways, these programs feel more important than they ever have been before. And so we thought it was really great. It would be important to put a reminder here on the 1961 when U.S. Congress approved the Fulbright-Hays Act to create an educational and cultural exchange programs with the goal of increasing mutual understanding between the people of the United States and the people of other countries by means of educational and cultural exchange. Again, at the essence, this is why we're doing it. This is what we're doing. And we are so excited to have participants so close or even arriving now about to experience this type of cultural exchange. So again, thank you so much for all that you do and for supporting this exchange. And we hope that you have a safe and productive summer with the participants working with you. I'm going to turn it over to Kara.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to Jamie and our team for putting this together today. Very excited to be where we are compared to this time last year or this time 2 years ago. And I appreciate everybody going through this journey with us and joining this webinar and many of the previous webinars. As we mentioned in the beginning of our presentation, if you want to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to send any questions, we'll give you a moment to do that. While you may be typing questions, just bringing your attention to the chat box where I did answer earlier questions and dropping in our phone number for participants, but also that is our phone number in after hours emergencies. So somebody from CIE can be reached 24/7 at that number. And I also dropped in the chat box our host resource center, which is host.cie.org. Our first question that just appeared, so jumping right in, are there any countries you're concerned about not issuing visas outside, of course, Russia and Ukraine? Jamie, throw that one to you.
Absolutely. We definitely have, as I mentioned earlier, we have been monitoring specifically Russia and Ukraine and any of the surrounding countries. There definitely is a ripple effect and an impact of what's happening with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. To specifically point to one specific sending country and give a very thorough. It unfortunately it's a little bit different with each sending country and also each post within a sending country. So we will definitely be in touch if we have specific concerns for your specific hires, and certainly reach out to us at hire@ciae.org if you have really specific sending country questions. Anything to add there, Kara?
No, just as Jamie mentioned, WIN is definitely a very collaborative approach with State Department and the branches within State Department. So ECA, who's running these cultural exchange programs, working very, very closely with Consular Affairs to bring back, successful processing times and visa processing movement for these incredibly important programs. So definitely, if you have concerns, bring those to our attention. That is it on the questions right now. So if you have any other questions or other things arise, as Jamie mentioned, reach out to us at hire@cie.org. And, again, a huge thank you for all you're doing in preparation for your arriving participants this summer. And we're really looking forward to a successful season. And please be on the lookout for continued communication as we have updates for you on things such as CVIS or other information that comes our way to share.